Welcome back to the Retail Initiative Podcast. This season has been fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't checked out the other episodes, last episode I went into my story, which was really the first time I ever shared it publicly. If I'm honest, I was a little nervous about it. And today I want to talk about a checklist for growth. What are the things that you need to do? So I got a DM a few days ago, and honestly, it's a DM that I've gotten a ton of times. And if you're the one that sent it, I mean no shame in this, and I hope that this is encouraging. But the DM said, hey, do you have resources or a checklist for me to grow online sales that is easy to implement? Do you have a checklist to grow online sales that's really easy to implement? Like, not confusing, the technology's not hard. And I don't know why. Like, normally I'll point to a webinar or something, but this one stood out to me, and I don't know why, because I've gotten that exact message in different words 100 times. And so I wanted to record an episode on what is that checklist? And here's the hard truth. There's not a checklist. There's not a checklist that takes you to the next level. Now, that is kind of not true in the sense that I could tell you activity to do. You need to have a website experience that's really good. You need to be posting on social media. You need to be updating your site. You need to be buying inventory. You need to be bringing in new items. You need to be understanding your customer. And all of those things are good. But here's what's hard about all of that. I can tell you brands that have a decent website, they post on social, they're doing reels, they're sending emails, they're sending text, and they're not gaining traction. All of the boxes are being checked. Have you ever been in that situation, like in health? If you've ever tried to get healthy, you might hit this plateau where you're checking all the boxes. You're eating healthy, you're going to the gym, you're following an exercise routine, you're doing the things, but the results aren't where you want it to be. It's possible to do the things and not get where you want to go. Why does this happen? Why do we check the boxes and not get what we want? And I think it's because we don't have the right strategy behind it. If we're only focused on the tactics, the things that we're doing, whether that be our site or our social strategy or whatever, is that really going to move us closer to our goals? I don't think so. Now, it might help a little bit. Consistency is good. And if you're posting on social on a regular basis and you do that long enough, a lot of times results will eventually happen, but the results will come much faster when you have a strategy. And so what are those key things? Because I can't give you a checklist of do this exact thing, but I can tell you, yes, it's showing up consistent. Yes, it's a site experience. Yes, it's your emails. Yes, it's all of those things. But behind it all, there's a strategy. And what is that strategy? What are the things to focus on? And I talked about these pieces before, but I want to revisit them because they're that important. The first is you as the CEO. And you're like, wait, how am I a strategy? Well, part of leading a successful business is being the person capable of running a successful business. And the good news is if you're like, well, I don't know how to do this, and this, is we can elevate who we are. We can say, I'm not there yet, but I have everything at my disposal to get there. There are books we can read. There are courses we can buy. There are podcasts we can listen to. There are things we could do to elevate our thinking, elevate our beliefs, and really change who we are. And there are a few things I want to point out today. Is one, it takes being a CEO that is focused on understanding what moves the needle, on showing up consistently, on growing the brand. And focus means that we begin to learn how to say yes to the right things, and we say no to others. I tend to see in my own life, when I'm not really moving the needle and I am busy, I look at my calendar and it is just booked back to back to back. And if I'm honest, that was me this week. And I started tracking my time by 15-minute increments. And I realized that I wasn't really doing the things that are high leverage activity, meaning like there are some things that whether it's me doing it or it's someone else doing it, doesn't really make a difference. But why am I, as the owner, doing those things? It's like, in your house, yes, you could go mow your yard, but is that really the highest leverage activity, or is it time with your kids? That was a weird aha that I had last summer. I actually really enjoy working in my yard. I love mowing and all of those things. But as life got busier, realizing that, it was almost ridiculous for me to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours every Saturday morning on my yard instead of spending it with my family. And so that's when I was like, okay, I got to go back to the yard company. Even though I enjoy it, it's not where I am the most fruitful. And the same thing applies in your business, is we have to focus on saying no to the things that don't move the needle, and we say yes to the things that does. A lot of times we say that we don't have time. We say that we're busy. We say that we can't get to the priorities. But then when we think about it, saying we don't have time really means we're saying yes to all these other priorities. We're saying yes to everything else except this thing that we say we want, but we're not prioritizing it enough. Because I don't believe that we don't have time. I just believe that we don't prioritize. And the thing that we're saying we don't have time for just isn't a priority at the end of the day. I said this for years, where I was like, I don't have time to get to the gym. But I did have time to watch Netflix. I did have time to read in the morning. I did have time for all these other things, and not bad things, but I couldn't say I didn't have time to get to the gym because I was just choosing to prioritize other things over it. Next, as a CEO, we have to be curious. We can't have this mentality of like, we said it, we launched it, and it didn't work, and then that doesn't work, period. I posted this on social media, and social media just doesn't work. No, we have to have a curiosity to it. Our site goes live, and we immediately turn on our what's working, why is it working, what's not working, why is it not working, and we stay curious about it. That's one of the things. Like look at a kid. And look at the way that they approach something. They just have a curiosity to it. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to be curious and really emotionally disconnected from what's working and what's not. When we're posting reels, we see, okay, is this working or is this not working? And if it is, why? A cool thing that you can do, if you have a reel that really takes off, take the audio and take the exact same audio and re-record a new style of video to go with it. And then you can also take the same style of video, but do it with a different audio. And you can see which piece is going to take off from that. That's an example of doing that from a reel, but this applies to all types of business. And then lastly, we are committed to our success. We are not going to give up until we get there. And if we believe in the impact that we can make, that's not a hard one to do. So that being the CEO, really up-leveling our beliefs and what we're capable of is at the center. And then there are two major cornerstones here. When we think about our site, our social, our email, it comes down to two things. The first is your brand. Not your store, not your website, not any of that. It's your brand. And if your brand's a person, what would they sound like? What would their voice be like? And there's three things that make up a brand. There's the visuals. This is the obvious one. This is your logo, your fonts, your colors. I would say it's the vibe. And hopefully, when we look at your site, your store, your other channels, there's a consistent visual between all of them. Similar colors, similar fonts, a similar vibe. I love using that word because I think that really encompasses all of it. Then we have your voice. If your brand was texting someone, how would they really talk to a human? Because some of us, our brand would actually have a really informal tone, but when we look at our product descriptions, we write like a robot. And so instead, how can we write with that funny, goofy tone, like, OMG, girl, you're not going to believe how you're going to feel in this Susie dress. The soft cotton will blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff. We have an informal tone and on purpose. And then you have the experience. This is the way that your brand helps people. This is the questions that your brand asks. These are the core problems that they solve for your customer. So on one side of this pillar of this foundation, you have the brand. On the other side of it, you have your perfect customer. This is who you serve. This is your one perfect customer. And where all of this comes together is the relationship between the two. And when we look at a customer, I like to look at them in 3 different levels. First, we want to start with demographics. This is their life stage, their income level, their marital status. This is the basic stuff. And this is where if you Google like customer avatar worksheet, that's what you're going to see. And they're good things. We want to understand that. Because when we hone in on those things, instead of trying to be all things to all people, we can fully help one person and people that resonate with them. So if we serve, moms in their 30s, well, there are 20-year-olds that have a more mature taste, and there are 50-year-olds that are more youthful at heart, and they all resonate, but we're not trying to serve people from the ages of 20 to 55. And this is one of the most powerful decisions you can make in your business, is fully serving one person and the people that resonate with them. The next level is how they shop. When they walk into a dressing room and they put on a dress, what are they thinking about? What are they looking for? And when we understand these things, that helps fuel how we're doing our navigation. That helps fuel our in-store merchandising. It fuels everything that we do because we understand the core things that they look for in what you sell. And then lastly is what keeps them up at night, and why do they get out of bed in the morning? This is the touchy-feely stuff that can sometimes be really hard, but it becomes important because that influences our copy. That influences our social media. It influences the way our brand connects with them. So to go back to that example earlier, they're a 34-year-old mom, and if we think deep down who they are, they have these goals. They want to be a good mom. They want to be a great wife. They want to kind of keep up with the Joneses in their community. But deeper than that, she also remembers what college felt like when she had this sense of individuality. And, she was her own person. And now she's mom and she's wife and these identities that aren't her. And she's trying to balance the two. How can our brand speak to someone who's struggling with these dual identities? We get the opportunity to talk about being, I had a friend who did like Hot Mom Summer, and that was the funny trend that she did, and it was kind of pulling in the best of those worlds. But when we understand these things, we're able to take our brand and take our perfect customer and really create an incredible experience. And when these things start to resonate, that's what makes the checklist work. That's what makes updating your site, staying consistent on social, emailing on a regular basis, sending out text, merchandising in the right way, the things we know we're supposed to do, we just don't do. It's those things that will start to move the needle when it's backed by the right strategy. And that's what the strategy is. So I'm grateful for you. Thanks for listening to this episode. Can't wait to see you next time.